Are you making a simple cold weather starting mistake that's slowly destroying your engine without you even realizing it? When temperatures drop below freezing, the way you start and warm up your car makes the difference between an engine lasting 200,000 miles or dying before 100,000. Most drivers think they're being careful, but they're actually causing damage every single cold morning. After analyzing engine failures that occur specifically in winter climates, I've identified the exact starting mistakes that lead to premature wear, scored cylinders, and thousands in repairs. Today I'm revealing what you should never do when starting your car in cold weather and the correct procedure that actually protects your engine. Let's get into it. The number one mistake that ruins engines fast is excessive cranking when the engine won't start immediately. When it's below freezing and you turn the key, if the engine doesn't fire up within a few seconds, many drivers keep cranking continuously for 15, 20, even 30 seconds hoping it will eventually catch. This is one of the worst things you can do. At 32 degrees Fahrenheit, a car's battery loses about 35% of its strength, and at 0 degrees Fahrenheit it loses 60% of capacity. When you crank continuously on a weak cold battery, you're draining it rapidly while also risking starter motor damage from overheating. You should avoid excessively cranking the engine in cold weather because if you do this for too long, it can result in overheating damage to your starter motor. The starter motor is designed for short bursts of 10 to 15 seconds maximum, not continuous operation. Extended cranking causes the internal windings to overheat, potentially melting insulation and leading to complete starter failure. A starter replacement typically costs $300 to $800 depending on your vehicle. Additionally, continuous cranking on a cold engine that's struggling to start floods the cylinders with excess fuel. In cold temperatures, gasoline doesn't vaporize as easily as when warm, so unburned fuel washes down cylinder walls, diluting the oil film that protects pistons and rings. This creates metal-on-metal contact and accelerated wear. The correct procedure is crank for no more than 10 seconds, then wait 30 seconds before trying again. This gives the starter motor time to cool and allows the battery to recover slightly between attempts. If the engine doesn't start after 3 attempts, stop and diagnose the actual problem rather than continuing to drain the battery and risk component damage. Mistake number 2 is turning on every electrical accessory immediately after starting a cold engine. When you finally get the engine running on a cold morning, the instinct is to immediately turn on the heater, defroster, heated seats, and rear window defrost all at once. This is a major mistake that can stall a cold engine or cause alternator and battery stress. Here's what actually happens. Your cold engine is already struggling. The thickened oil creates increased internal friction, the battery is weakened from cold, and the alternator needs time to begin charging effectively. When you immediately demand maximum electrical load, you're asking a system that's barely functioning to power multiple high-draw accessories simultaneously. Cold weather increases electrical resistance, making it harder for your battery and spark plugs to do their job. The engine computer is also managing a rich fuel mixture for cold starting, which creates additional combustion instability. Piling on electrical demands can cause the idle to drop dangerously low or even stall the engine completely. You should avoid switching on lots of electrics all at once straight after starting your car, as this could eat up all your car's remaining power before you've even got moving. The correct approach is start the engine and let it idle for 30 seconds with minimal accessories running. Only the essentials like headlights if it's dark. Then, begin turning on accessories one at a time rather than all simultaneously. Turn on the defroster first to clear visibility. Wait 30 seconds, then activate heated seats. Wait another 30 seconds before turning on the rear defroster. This staged approach allows the alternator to gradually build charging capacity and prevents overwhelming the electrical system during its most vulnerable period. Mistake number 3 is extended idling to warm up the engine. For decades, drivers were taught to let their cars idle for 5, 10, even 15 minutes before driving in cold weather. This advice was appropriate for carbureted engines common until the mid-1980s, but modern fuel-injected engines work completely differently. Extended cold idling actually causes more harm than good to modern engines. In freezing weather, it's important to warm up the engine, but for newer models, idling for long periods is unnecessary. A brief 30-second idle followed by a gentle drive is sufficient for warming up most engine components. Here's why extended idling damages modern engines. During cold idle, the engine runs on an extremely rich fuel mixture to maintain combustion. This excess fuel washes down cylinder walls, diluting the protective oil film and contaminating the crankcase oil. Cold idling also allows moisture from combustion to condense inside the engine rather than evaporating, which promotes internal corrosion and sludge formation. The catalytic converter needs high exhaust temperatures to function properly, and extended cold idling prevents it from reaching operating temperature, potentially causing long-term damage to emissions components. The Department of Energy confirms that engines warm up significantly faster when driven gently compared to sitting and idling. The mechanical operation under light load generates heat throughout the engine more effectively than idle alone. The correct warm-up procedure is let the engine idle for just 30 seconds after starting. This allows oil pressure to build and oil to begin circulating to all components. Then drive gently, keeping RPMs below 3000 and avoiding hard acceleration for the first several miles until the temperature gauge shows the engine reaching normal operating range. Mistake number 4 is using summer-grade or wrong viscosity oil in winter conditions. Oil viscosity changes dramatically with temperature, and using oil that's too thick for cold conditions makes starting extremely difficult and causes significant wear during cold starts. When it's cold, engine oil becomes thicker and doesn't flow around the engine as well, which means it's more difficult to pump through the engine block, placing additional strain on the battery. Cold temperatures cause engine oil to thicken, which makes it harder for the engine to turn over, as the oil's viscosity increases and engine parts have to work harder to move. If your oil has too much cold viscosity or resistance to flow, you won't be able to start your car in cold temperatures. Even if the engine does start, thick oil takes much longer to reach critical components like valve train, turbocharger bearings, and piston rings. During this delay, those parts operate with inadequate lubrication, causing accelerated wear. Always make sure you're using the right oil in your car, as recommended by the manufacturer. Check your car's handbook to see what type of oil the manufacturer recommends, and switch to a thinner grade if possible in winter. Oil viscosity ratings include a winter number followed by W. For example, 5W30 means the oil flows like a 5-weight oil in winter temperatures. The lower this first number, the better the oil flows when cold. For vehicles operating in very cold climates, even 0W oils are available. Typical winter grades include 5W20, 5W30, and 0W20 depending on your engine specifications. Using 10W30 or 10W40 in winter makes cold starting significantly harder and increases wear. Always keep up with regular oil changes and use the winter-grade oil recommended in your owner's manual for better flow at colder temperatures. Mistake number 5 is ignoring frozen fuel line prevention. Water vapor naturally condenses inside fuel tanks as temperatures fluctuate, and this moisture can freeze in fuel lines when temperatures drop below 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Water vapor in your fuel line can freeze and create blockages, preventing fuel from reaching the engine. Water is heavier than gasoline, so the water will migrate to the bottom of the tank and into the fuel lines. When the temperature drops below freezing, the water in the fuel lines can freeze and prevent gasoline from reaching the engine. The symptoms of frozen fuel lines include the engine cranking normally but not starting, the engine starting briefly then dying, or rough running that gradually worsens. By the time you realize fuel lines are frozen, you're already stranded. Prevention is critical. Always make sure your car's fuel cap is securely refitted after filling up, as this will limit moisture and condensation within the fuel tank. A damaged or improperly sealed fuel cap allows humid air to enter the tank. Inspect the seal to be intact and free from rips, tears, or holes. Keep your gas tank at least half full during winter months. Keeping your tank fuller in the winter reduces the space where moisture can condense on the sides of the fuel tank. The more empty space in your tank, the more room for humid air and resulting condensation. This is especially important overnight when temperatures drop most dramatically. For extremely cold weather below 10 degrees Fahrenheit, consider using fuel line antifreeze additives available at auto parts stores. These products absorb moisture and prevent ice formation in fuel lines. Diesel vehicle owners face additional challenges. Diesel fuel can turn into a gel at low temperatures, preventing it from flowing into the engine. If very cold weather is predicted, say below -12 degrees Celsius, and you have a diesel car, it would likely be beneficial to add diesel antifreeze to your fuel. This additive allows the fuel to experience -40 degrees Celsius before gelling. If your diesel car has a traditional key to start and not a push button, you can give it a fighting chance by allowing the glow plugs to fully warm up before starting. Wait for the glow plug indicator light to go out completely before cranking. Mistake number 6 is neglecting pre-winter battery maintenance. Cold weather battery failure is the #1 cause of winter breakdowns, but most of these failures are completely preventable with basic pre-season maintenance. During the hot summer months, car batteries can become strained from the heat, and a power-drained heat-damaged battery is often the culprit when your car won't start once the winter weather returns. In cold weather, your vehicle needs more power to crank. If your battery has low power, it's harder to turn the engine over. In addition, the chemical reactions required to generate power slow down, leading to reduced efficiency. Bad batteries are the most common cause for starting issues in the winter. If your battery is a few years old or damaged through non-use, the drop in temperature can be just enough to prevent the engine from turning over. Battery monitors can be bought relatively cheaply and will tell you how healthy the cells are at any time. Once a battery is below 40% health, especially if it's 8 years or more old, it would probably be worth getting a replacement. Have your battery tested at any auto parts store before winter arrives. Most stores offer free battery testing. If your battery is more than 4 years old or tests below 60% capacity, replace it proactively rather than waiting for failure on the coldest morning of the year. Check battery terminals for corrosion. White or blue-green crusty buildup on terminals increases electrical resistance and makes starting harder. Clean terminals with a wire brush and apply dielectric grease to prevent future corrosion. Verify that battery cables are tight. Loose connections create resistance that's especially problematic in cold weather. Mistake number 7 is forcing frozen locks or handles. When temperatures drop below freezing, door locks, handles, and even power windows can freeze. Forcing frozen components causes damage that leads to expensive repairs. Never force a frozen door handle or try to yank open a frozen door. The rubber seals can tear, handles can break, and door mechanisms can be damaged. Instead, use de-icer spray on the lock and gently warm the key with your hands or a lighter before inserting it. For frozen handles, pour lukewarm, not hot water over the handle area or use commercial de-icer. Make sure the windscreen wipers aren't stuck to the glass before setting off, and don't leave them on automatic in cold weather. They could be frozen stuck and try to start going when you turn on the engine. It could damage your wipers or you could blow a fuse, causing other problems. Before activating wipers, manually lift them to ensure they're not frozen to the windshield. If they are frozen, use de-icer or lukewarm water to free them rather than forcing the wiper motor to break them loose. Here's the correct cold weather starting procedure from start to finish. Before starting, clear all snow and ice from windows, lights, and exhaust pipe. A blocked exhaust can cause dangerous carbon monoxide to enter the cabin. Check that the gear shift is in park or neutral and the parking brake is engaged. Turn off all accessories including radio, heater, lights, and heated seats. This reduces the electrical load for starting. Turn the key or press the start button. If the engine doesn't start within 10 seconds, stop cranking. Wait 30 seconds before trying again. After the engine starts, let it idle for 30 seconds while oil circulates. Begin driving gently, keeping speeds moderate in RPMs below 3,000 for the first several miles. Gradually turn on accessories one at a time rather than all at once. Continue gentle driving until the temperature gauge shows normal operating temperature. If this information just saved you from expensive cold weather engine damage, hit that like button right now. Drop a comment telling me what your coldest winter temperature is and whether you've experienced any of these cold weather problems. And if you want more straight talk about protecting your engine in all weather conditions, subscribe to this channel. Next week I'm revealing why your check engine light comes on in winter and whether you should worry about it. The answer might surprise you. Subscribe so you don't miss it. Remember, the way you start your car in cold weather determines whether your engine survives winter or becomes another cold weather casualty.